So, you're planning to go to New York City, that is Manhattan, or you've just arrived in Manhattan and haven't the foggiest idea what to do next except say, wow, there's a lot here. When I first moved here over half a century ago, I had that very reaction. I thought, oh my God, what did I do? I'm lost. So, in retrospect, what I did is I split my discovery time into two chunks. One, I said to myself, you better learn that street grid quick. And two, you better get the hang of the subway system or you're going to be lost forever. And that's exactly what I did. To help you out, we're going to go through a quick lesson in the street grid of more or less midtown Manhattan, and that'll be followed by a little lesson on how to kind of use the subways as the second part of this video. So let's start with the street grid, which you're looking at right now. The street grid helps you understand just why there's an east side and a west side. The split is Fifth Avenue. Everything to the right, that is to the east of Fifth Avenue, is called the east side, and everything to the left, that is west, is called the west side. Furthermore, avenues, which are shown right here with dark blue, avenues generally run north and south. Streets run east and west. The streets themselves start with low numbers at Fifth Avenue, and if you go east, it'll have numbers like 1 east, 3 east, 5 east, 7 east on the north side of the street, or numbers like 2 east, 4 east, 6 east, numbers for the addresses on the south side of the street. On the west side, again, the numbers start at Fifth Avenue, and on the north side, the street addresses run 1 west, 3 west, 5 west on whatever street you're on. And if it's on the south side or downtown side, the numbers run 2 west, 4 west, 6 west, and so on, with the smallest numbers starting on Fifth Avenue, be it east or west side. The W and the E, west and east, on street names are very meaningful, and the addresses are kind of easy to understand. Regarding the avenues, which run north and south, if you get an address on any avenue, there are formulas in Google to figure out what the nearest cross street is. But to be honest, after living here over 52 years, I sort of gave up. I said, this is ridiculous. So if I see an avenue address like 278 something Avenue, I just go into Google and try to figure it out. Now we try to tackle the subways. When I first moved to Manhattan in the 1960s, what I had to do was understand how the subways got where they got in the first place. So here's a little map which will kind of help you understand what's going on. On this subway map, on the left, there is a little blue box. Historically, again, when I moved here, the trains were called the IRT line, the BMT line, and the IND line. Those were the original 3 subway systems which operated independent of each other. They were originally 3 private companies and there was no interconnection of anything. Eventually, the city bought them all up and created an integrated grid, free transfers from subway to subway. You don't even have to think about it anymore. Just for historical purposes, IRT was the Interborough Rapid Transit Company, which ran their line. The BMT was the Brooklyn Manhattan Transit Company, which ran their line. And the IND was the Independent line, which ran their line. Once the lines were fully integrated, everything changed. You could move from one subway to another without getting out of any tunnels. On this map, in order to help you out, this is where things stand now. The trains, thank goodness, are now known by either letters or numbers. To some extent, it connects back with the original Independence subway lines, the IRT, BMT, IND, but in reality, you really don't need to know that except for historical purposes. Looking at the map, I've created sort of vertical oblong pictures, as it were, of some of the major subway line numbers and names that people use nowadays. And it's a complete hodgepodge, but there's the 8th Avenue line, which is running on 8th Avenue. Why not? The 7th Avenue line, which runs on 7th Avenue. Why not? The 6th Avenue line, which runs on 6th Avenue. The Broadway line, which runs under Broadway. The Lexington line, which runs on Lexington Avenue. But things don't stay that way for long. That's just in kind of midtown. So here's my hint on how to learn the subways. Get a map like this, absolutely mandatory. There are, I believe, around 26 different subway lines which go all over the place. Remember, you're just looking at the borough of Manhattan. Some of the subways go into Queens, into Brooklyn, into the Bronx, and once you cross the river on the Staten Island Ferry, they have their own little subway line which runs independently just on Staten Island. In any event, my suggestion on how to use the subways is get yourself a subway map. The buzz names, if you go onto Google, they're all free. Look for MTA, which stands for Metropolitan Transit Authority, or look for New York City subway map. But the map I'm showing you here is the image that you want to get, the one that everybody uses at this time. The second thing you've got to understand, I'm sorry to laugh, but this is going to get goofy, is how do you pay for a subway? Well, like most of the world now, everything is or is getting close to fully electronic everything. If I go into detail on how things stand at the time I'm making this video, I'm going to have people say, you got to be kidding. But at the moment, they're two separate systems. And by the way, cash is not a good idea on most areas. One way or another, you're going to have to get some kind of little piece of paper or, as you'll discover, credit cards. But here's the buzzwords. Look up MetroCard, METROCARD on Google, or look up the most recent change, which is vast and it's going to take over everything. If you're looking at this video later on in years, it's the only one that'll work. It's called Omni, OMNY, One Metropolitan New York. It's explained in Google, as is the MetroCard in Google. Please understand what you're getting into. Trying to use cash only to get into the subway or to a bus is going to cause you no end of grief. However, there is a way to change cash into these various tickets. So once again, the main midtown avenues, and the reason I'm showing this map, people may use the name 8th Avenue, take the 7th Avenue line, take the 6th Avenue line, take the Broadway line, take the Lexington line, because that's what's used in Manhattan. But each of those lines has letters or numbers connected with them, which you can look up in Google. For example, the 8th Avenue line might have letters like the A train, the B train, and so on, the C train. The 6th Avenue line might have letters like the F train or the M train. And the 7th Avenue line, which was part of the IRT, will have numbers like the 1 train, the 2 train, or the 3 train. And the Lexington line, well, part of the original IRT line, will also nowadays have numbers like the 4 train, the 5 train, the 6 train. So just remember, all the lines now are identified by letters and or numbers. So the numbers are easy to remember. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 train. The letters is another story. There's the A train, B train, C train, D train, E train, F train. G train, which runs only in Brooklyn, and the J train, the L train, which runs between Manhattan and Brooklyn, the M train, the N train, the Q train, which is a new line running up to Second Avenue, and so on and so forth. The W train, which runs under Broadway, etc. So if I've mixed you up, please forgive me, but when I first came here, it was much more complicated than I'm making it sound right now. Just remember, every train has a letter or a number only, and you can find and identify them if you get yourself a map online or when you're here in person. It's free. Get a map that's identified by the MTA, New York City subway line, or just look up in Google New York City subway line. On that happy note, peace.